Oh, yes. Let's go talk to God and let's see what God has to say about this particular battle. So Ahab says, fine. And he gathers almost 400 prophets together. That's a lot of prophets. Now remember, the Bible says that the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. He got 400. And all 400 said what? Go. You'll be victorious. Ramoth Gilead is yours. And so off to the battle they go. No? No. Jehoshaphat's a little concerned, isn't he? And he says, is there not one more prophet? And Ahab says, there is one. But he hates me. He just hates me. He always prophesies evil against me. He never says anything good about me. And he refuses to get this prophet. Is that true? No. He sends for him, doesn't he? And by the time this prophet is about to enter into their presence, where have these 2 men gone and what have they done? Yes, they've set up their thrones at the gates. They have attired themselves in the royal garb. They have all the prophets there before them who are prophesying victory and victory and victory. And one of them is a man by the name of Zedekiah, who says, oh yes, with these horns of iron, God will drive the Assyrians out before you. And Micaiah is going to come as a lone, single prophet right into the middle of that environment. And that's where we are right now, aren't we? Anybody got a good title for this section? No. See, Glenn's not here, and that's not fair for Glenn. Somebody needs to step up to the plate. Micaiah prophesies to Ahab. Now, is that hard? Come on, folks. Okay? I just put Micaiah stands before Ahab and Jehoshaphat. He goes before both men, does he not? 4 points. Number 1, Micaiah's sarcastic remark. Okay. Number 2, Micaiah's sobering visions. Number 3, Zedekiah's stern rebuke. And then lastly, Ahab's severe punishment. Okay, those are the 4 points that I wrote down. So we'll just go through this and poor old Micaiah. 1 against how many? And 2. Right? 402, the 2 kings. They're standing there too. And you kind of wonder about Jehoshaphat, don't you? Okay? You wonder about Jehoshaphat. What question did Ahab ask Micaiah when he appeared before him? Yes, and he came to the king, and the king said unto him, Micaiah, shall we go against Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall we forbear? Good question. He'd already asked this question of who? The 400 prophets. A good question. Remember we said a while ago in our last lesson, if you ask a good question to the wrong person, you get the wrong answer. What must I do to be saved? Good question. Does it depend on who you ask? Yes, because you can get the wrong answer from some people, can't you? And so you have to be very careful. Well, now we've got the right question being asked to the right person, so you would think you would get the right answer. Isn't that right? The right answer. Man. The prophets of Ahab had already assured Ahab of victory, isn't it? Ahab was not asking Micaiah about the battle because he really wanted to know the answer. Okay? He was doing it for who? Solely for Jehoshaphat. He could care less about the answer. What was the response Micaiah gave to Ahab's question? And he answered and said, Go and prosper, for the Lord shall deliver it into the hand of the king. Who would have ever thunk it? Right? That answer is exactly the same answer that the old prophets had given it. Okay? Very, very interesting. I just wrote this down. It would have been interesting to see the look on the faces of the two kings and the 400 prophets when Micaiah spoke those words. Wouldn't you like to have been in that group? I'd almost like to have been standing right there behind the kings, you know, or in front of the kings and witness their response. I put these things down. Was Ahab surprised? I don't know. I don't know if he's surprised, and the reason I say that is because of his response. The one thing that you cannot pick up on in reading sometime are facial expressions, body language, and voice tones, and things of that nature. Okay, all we've got are the words that he spoke, right? But it's interesting by the response of Ahab that he knew something. Chateau says something's up, and how true that is. True or false? Ahab knew Micaiah's answer was the truth. That's false. False. And the king said unto him, How many times shall I adjure thee, that thou tell me nothing but that which is true in the name of the Lord? Man, there had to have been something about his voice tone, his words, his body language, that Ahab immediately picks up on, right? This man has never what? He has never prophesied anything good against me, and now all of a sudden he is? No way. There's no way. And so there was something that had to have been there. Kyle and DeLitch make this very point. He says this, from the verbal agreement in his reply, and probably also from the tone in which he spake, Ahab perceived his words were ironical, and adjured him to speak only the truth in the name of Jehovah. Wow. Ahab said that he wanted nothing but that which is true in the name of who? In the name of Jehovah. Yet that is the precise thing that he didn't want. Man, isn't that amazing? Is that the way we can be sometime? You know, we as members of the church, you know, we love the truth. We say we do. We have the truth. And we want the preacher to preach the truth. And that's what we tell him. You get up there and preach the truth. And then he does. And the question that we ask is that what you really wanted? You know, because sometimes it isn't, is it? Sometimes we want something else. Micaiah had told him the truth in the past, and what had he done? He'd only gotten angry, hadn't he? What did he say about his relationship to Micaiah? I blank him. I hate the man. Can't stand him. And he couldn't stand him today either. Okay? On this particular occasion. What vision did Micaiah see regarding Israel? Yes, Israel was scattered like sheep with no shepherd. And he said, I saw all Israel scattered upon the hills as sheep having not a shepherd. Folks, go back and do a word study on the word shepherd in the Old Testament. Okay? And many times that little word shepherd refers to guess who? A king. Okay? Write down Isaiah 44:28. Ezekiel 34, verse 8. Isaiah 44, 28. Ezekiel 34, verse 8. As I live, saith the Lord God, surely because my flock became a prey, and my flock became meat to every beast of the field, because there was no shepherd. Neither did my shepherds search for my flock, but the shepherds fed themselves and fed not the flock. He's talking about the kings of Israel. Okay, folks, these kings were supposed to be extremely protective of the nation. Okay, and sometimes the kings were only out for who? Only out for self. It's what I can get, what I can pocket. Very, very interesting. And the Lord said, these have no blank, Master. Let them return every man to his house in blank. peace. What is he predicting right now? I see Israel scattered, having what? No shepherd. What's he predicting? He's predicting the death of who? Of Ahab. They don't have a king anymore. Okay? And without a king, they just flee anywhere they want to, do they not? And he says, rather than these individuals going to battle, okay, let them return right now, every man where? To his house in peace. Right now, if you don't do this, if you don't go to battle, if you don't fight against the Syrians, every one of you can return to your house in peace. And he's exhorting them to do that. What did Ahab say to Jehoshaphat when he heard Micaiah's words? We got Dutch Decker version. It's worse than the Cotton Patch version. And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, you can just see the two kings sitting up beside each other, can't you? I can almost see Ahab almost jump up and look at Jehoshaphat. Okay? Didn't I tell you? How'd you say it? See, I told you so. Did I not tell thee that he would prophesy no good concerning me, but evil? Wow. Question. Wasn't it Ahab who had exhorted Micaiah to tell me nothing but that which Jehovah has said? He just said that, did he not? And yet, that is not what he wanted. Here's some interesting things we need to understand, folks. Truth is not always, quote, good. Okay? Truth is not always positive. And truth is not always comforting, is it? And especially if we are in the wrong. If you're in the wrong, guess what? Truth's going to hurt every time. Get your life right and truth will do what? Truth will be a lot more sweet, won't it? Dutch?
It's so ironic. Micah gave him what he wanted to hear. Yet, he wanted to prove to Jehoshaphat that this guy was just the opposite. He would never give him favor. So then he gives him the truth because he tells him, talk to me the way God talked to you. And then he's upset.
Oh, yeah. And we all get that way, don't we? You know, and at times we get that way when it comes to the truth of God's word. We really don't want to hear it. Okay, I want to do what I want to do. There was some way that Ahab detected Micaiah was just messing with him. That's the reason I named my first point Micaiah's sarcasm. Okay, he was being very sarcastic with regard to the king. What vision did Micaiah see of the Lord? And he said, hear thou therefore the word of the Lord. I ain't finished. Remember I told you a while ago that you can almost see Ahab stand up and look. It's almost as if he's saying, hey Ahab, sit back down. I'm not finished yet. Okay? Hear thou for the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting where? On His throne. That's interesting. Because these two men had made this an occasion where both of them are sitting on their thrones. I'm seeing somebody sitting on a throne more glorious than yours. Jehovah is sitting on His throne. In Revelation 4, 2 and 3, we read the following, and immediately I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. And He that sat was to look upon like jasper and the sardine stone. And there was a rainbow round about the throne, in sight like unto an emerald. Folks, one of these days you and I will stand before the throne of the Almighty God. You know that? And every time we read these passages where you read about God on His throne, you and I need to be preparing ourselves and our hearts for that day when we'll stand there. Okay? Very, very important. And it's a majestic throne. Who is standing by the Lord on His right hand and on His left? Ah, there you go. And all the host of heaven standing by him on his right hand and on his what? His left. Remember, Jehoshaphat has a large host. What is a host? Yes, a fighting force, is it not? And Ahab had a fighting force as well. Both of these men had armies to back them. Well, now we see not just a king on his throne, we also see this king's host, his armies where? Gathered all around his throne. Do you really want to do battle with the Lord? Revelation 5:11, and I beheld and I heard the voice of many angels round about the throne, and beasts and elders. Now listen to this. And the number of them was 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands of thousands. You cannot number the angelic host of heaven, folks. The Bible refers to them as an innumerable company of angels. I'm sure God knows the number. What question did the Lord ask when He was on His throne? Yes, and the Lord said, "Who shall persuade Ahab that he may go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead?" Oh, now think about that. Micaiah is presenting a vision that he sees to Ahab about what's going on where? In heaven. I see a throne. I see all the host of heaven surrounding the throne. And God asked this question: who can I send to persuade Ahab so he will go and what? Fall at Ramoth Gilead. Not be victorious. Fall at Ramoth Gilead. Man. And one sat on this blank and another sat on that blank. Manner and manner. Different angels, different ones of the host of heaven, come up to the throne, presented with a plan, right? I'll go. I'll persuade him this way. I'll persuade him that way. I'll persuade him this way. Man, who stood before the Lord and said, "I will persuade him"? And there came forth a spirit and stood before the Lord and said, "I will persuade him." Something got the Lord's attention, didn't it? Now there were a lot of the hosts who were saying, "I'll go," but all of a sudden it seems as though one just comes out in force, doesn't it? Or maybe he's a little bit different from the rest. You think? Maybe he's a little bit different from the rest. When the Lord asked the Spirit how he would persuade Ahab, what did he respond? And the Lord said unto him, "Wherewith? How are you going to persuade him?" And he said, "I will go forth, and I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets." Unbelievable. Why did I say this may have been a different spirit that caught the Lord's attention? Why did I say that? Anybody know? Turn over to Job 1, verse 6. Job 1, verse 6. And this is also found in Job 2, verse 1. Now there came a day when the sons of God, those are angels, came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. My question is this: could it be that some of Satan's angels might also have been granted the right to appear in the presence of God? And if so, this might have been an evil angel who requested the right to deceive the ruler of Israel, mightn't he? Now think about it. All these good angels are coming to the Lord, giving a plan as to how he might convince Ahab to go to battle. And finally, this one just steps up and says, "Hey, I'll do it." And God looks out and sees him and he goes, look at this guy. How are you going to do it? He said, I'll put a lying spirit in the mouth of these prophets. Unbelievable. And he said, thou shalt blank him and blank also. Thou shalt persuade him and prevail also. Go forth and do so. Man, who spoke those words? God did. Man, that's just unbelievable, isn't it? How do we explain to others that a God of truth put a lying spirit in the mouth of all these prophets? How do you explain that? The Bible says this, now therefore behold, the Lord hath put a lying spirit in the mouth of all these prophets.
When you're not looking for the truth and you refuse to accept the truth when the truth is shown you, you'll get what you want.
First of all, the spirit was probably an evil spirit, wasn't he? He was going to deceive regardless. And all God does now is what? Grants him permission to deceive Ahab, doesn't he? Did God grant Satan permission to harm Job? That seems almost cruel, does it not? I mean, he was harmed severely. All of his flocks, 10 of his kids slain, and then ultimately his entire body afflicted with boils from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet, and God allowed that. Sometimes God allows evil things to happen to others for tests, does he not? And this would be a test. Is Ahab being warned again? He hasn't gone to battle yet, has he? He's still hearing the words of a prophet. And he says, God talked to all the angels. One of the angels said that he would go and he would put a lying spirit in the mouth of your prophets. God said, go ahead and do that. Folks, that had already manifested itself, hadn't he? Now it's up to who? Now it's up to Ahab, isn't he? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I just wrote this down. It was a test for Ahab. He could believe his lying prophets and go to war and be defeated. Or he could believe Micaiah, refrain from war, and maintain what? Peace in the kingdom. How about this? Ahab was at a crossroads. It was time to make a decision. Man, you know, does the Bible talk about making decisions in numerous places? Oh, yeah. Folks, in all of us, almost every day, we come to certain points in our life where we have to do what? Make a decision. And we know the truth, and we also hear the lying spirits, don't we? And the lying spirits are trying to deceive us. Can you imagine being Ahab? Whose city was Ramoth-Gilead, folks? No. Whose was it? It belonged to Israel. But Syria, that's my city that an enemy has taken. 400 prophets. Go ahead, you've got it. One prophet that he hates anyway. Right? Nope. He sent a lying spirit to those 400 men. And I'm telling you the truth. If they go to battle, they'll lose their king. And Israel will be scattered like sheep upon a hill. Ahab, you've got a what to make? You've got a decision to make. The Bible says multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision. Wow. And we all find ourselves just like Ahab. And the Lord hath spoke blank concerning thee. And the Lord hath spoke evil concerning thee. Again, the evil involved defeat and the demise of the king, didn't it? Okay? Not evil in the sense of wickedness and sin and iniquity. Now what's interesting, he's told the truth now to who? To Ahab. Now remember there was another prophet there. And he'd been real bold and he had had this object lesson that he had presented to Ahab, right? And he's still apparently very close to where the king is. Who smote Micaiah on the cheek? Zedekiah. And Zedekiah, the son of Shenanah, went near and smote Micaiah on the cheek. Well, that was a sweet man, wasn't it? This is the very one who had prophesied the victory of Israel, hadn't it? He was the one who had the horns, those iron horns, and said, with these you will drive out the Syrians. Micaiah had said that Zedekiah had prophesied by a lying spirit, didn't he? In other words, he just called Zedekiah a what? A liar. You're a liar, you're a false prophet, and guess what? He was one ticked dude, wasn't he? And in his anger, what does he do? He smites Micaiah on the cheek. Man, unbelievable. Again, wouldn't you like to have been there? Folks, this is unbelievable. You know what? This is a huge stage being played out. You know, we smote him on the cheek and we just keep reading, you know. If a fight breaks out in Congress, and I mean a literal fight, is that a big deal? Yeah. We got prophets fighting each other. One smacking another one on the cheek. Unbelievable. He's just watching. She asked, what's Jehoshaphat doing this whole time? I said, he's just watching. What question did Zedekiah ask Micaiah after smiting him?
How did the Lord go from my mouth to yours?
Notice this. Which way, with the Spirit of the Lord, to speak, the Spirit of the Lord, me, to speak unto thee? In other words, he says, just a moment ago, I what? I spoke by the Spirit of the Lord. Now you're claiming to speak by what? The Spirit of the Lord. You tell me how the Spirit got from me to what? To you. Tell me how you do that. Because that's what Micaiah is saying, isn't he? I'm inspired. Zedekiah said he was inspired. How did he get to you? Man. Did the Spirit of the Lord who rests solely upon me to sin to inspire thee? Was it at this... And then he asked this question, was it at this ear where he smote him that he entered in order to hold communion with thee? Unreal. Barnes puts it this way, the Spirit of Yahweh certainly came to me and inspired me with the answer which I gave. If he afterward went to thee, as thou sayest he did, perhaps thou canst tell us all the secrets of the invisible world. Which way did the Spirit take to get to you? Man. He's just being a what? I just call him a smart aleck. Isn't he? He's just being a smart aleck. That's all he's doing. You tell me which way the Spirit operates. How did he fly from me to you? How did he get over there to you? Unreal. What is the meaning of Micaiah's answer to Zedekiah found in 1 Kings 22:25? Here's the answer. And Micaiah said, behold, thou shalt see in that day when thou shalt go into an inner chamber to hide thyself. What does he mean by that?
When you do an introspective yourself, probably when it's about to expire and he looks back on his life.
Now listen to his word. Behold, thou shalt see in that day, what day? The day that Israel gets whooped on the battlefield. Okay, you'll see in that day. And then he said, on that day, what is he going to do? Thou shalt go into thy chamber and hide thyself. You'll learn that day who had the Spirit of God. And guess what? It wasn't you. Okay? What's interesting about prophets is this. They are dead certain that they have the truth. Aren't they? Just dead certain. Now, do you think it would be hard to tell the difference between a true prophet and a false prophet back then? It'd be hard, wouldn't it? You know, here's Zedekiah, and what's he saying? You're going to win. And there's Micaiah. He says, no, you're going to be defeated. How do you know which one's right? Micaiah's dead certain I'm right. And he told Zedekiah that, didn't he? The words of Zedekiah would prove to be a lie. He would flee into an inner chamber to hide himself from arrest, from prison, possibly even what? Even death for false prophecy. Man. One man made this statement. Notice the calm manner of Micaiah versus the violent demeanor of Zedekiah. The truth does not have to scream and yell to make its point. It doesn't have to use violence in an attempt to convince others. Folks, that lesson right there is a wonderful lesson to use in our society today. Our society has become extremely violent. And when you see violence in the street, when you see violence anywhere, you need to ask yourself, who is it that's being violent? Okay? Because most of the time, violence works on behalf of evil, not on behalf of good. Okay? And so, and that was the case here, wasn't it? We have a very violent man by the name of Zedekiah striking one of God's faithful prophets. What did Ahab command to be done to Micaiah? And the king of Israel said, "Take Micaiah and carry him back to Ammon, the governor of the city, and Joash, the king's son." Wow. Two pretty powerful people. The governor of the city, the king's son. This is one of the, Barnes makes this statement, this is one out of several notices respecting what may be called the constitution of the Israelite kingdom. Thus Samaria, as we see from the present passage, was under a special governor, among whom his other duties had the control of the public prison and directed the treatment of prisoners. So we get a little glimpse into what? How these cities of Israel were governed and how they were run at this particular time. And he didn't just put him in contact with the governor. He says, you make certain that who else is involved in this process? My son too, because I can trust who? I can trust my son, can I? Where did the king command Micaiah to be put? Yes, put this fellow in prison. Micaiah's freedom was taken from him for simply doing what? Telling the truth. Unbelievable. How about this lesson? We don't believe that could happen in this country. You know what? We don't believe that could happen in this country. But it could. Israel had been a nation established by God to be His chosen people. Israel had been a nation under the authority of the law of Moses. Now they resorted to putting true prophets in prison. Isn't that something? Here's a nation built by God, founded by God, given a law to govern them by God, and it's that very nation that is putting God's prophets where? In prison. Unbelievable. Who would think that? Feeding with the bread of blank and the water of blank, the water of affliction. Deprive him of all the conveniences and comforts of life. Treat him severely. Just keep him alive that he may see the triumph. Give him just enough water, just enough bread to keep him alive till I get back. Man. How long was Micaiah supposed to remain in prison? Yes, Ahab said, until I come in peace. Micaiah had exhorted Ahab regarding his warriors that fought at Ramoth Gilead that they needed to do what? Go home right now when? In peace. Folks, if they left to go to battle, they were not returning what? In peace. Ahab's words are exactly the opposite of who? Of Micaiah's. The exact opposite. Okay? Ahab seems to rub the words back in Micaiah's face. If Ahab returned in peace, who had not spoken through Micaiah? And that's what Micaiah says. And Micaiah said, if thou return at all in peace, the Lord hath not spoken by me. I can almost see his soldiers grabbing him, right? And he hears those words and they're about to escort him out. He said, you keep him there until I get back in peace. And as he's leaving the room, Micaiah says, what? If you come back in peace, God hasn't spoken by me. And out of the room he goes. That's the last words he hears, isn't it? Micaiah had said, I saw all Israel scattered upon the hills as sheep having not a shepherd. He had also prophesied that the prophets of Ahab had a lying spirit in their mouth. Thus Ahab would not consume the Syrians. If those things failed to come to pass, Micaiah would be a what? A false prophet. Listen to this is Deuteronomy 18:22. When a prophet speaketh in the name of the Lord, if the things follow not, nor come to pass, that is the thing which the Lord hath not spoken. But if the prophet hath spoken it presumptuously, thou shalt not be afraid of him. That's what Micaiah says, isn't he? If you go, if you're victorious, if you come again in peace, then I am a false prophet and you don't need to worry about me anymore. Man, he knew the exact test of a prophet, didn't he? Do we have people who prophesy falsely today? Yeah. And we got some. Do we have a lot of false religions in the world? I've always wished that we would come up with a good little tract that all of us could just put at our door. Okay? We've got people who are in various religions who love to knock at our doors, don't we? And guys, guess what? The founders of those religions were false prophets. They made prophecies that did not come to pass. And what we need to do is when those individuals come and they start talking to us about their religion, we need to say, who is your founder? Well, they'll tell us. Did you know that he made a prophecy, 2 prophecies, 3 prophecies that didn't come to pass? And you know what tells me about that? That tells me he's a false prophet. And I'm not going to listen to a word that man's got to say. And you just hand them the tract and say, you read it for yourself. Go do your research. I am not going to be a follower of a false prophet. I am not going to be a part of a religion founded upon a false prophet. And yet thousands of people are, folks. And you and I need to be telling them that. You know that? Isn't that the foundation of their religion? Their founder? And if I can prove he's a false prophet, everything else about that religion crumbles. If you can prove to me Jesus is a false prophet, then guess what? I'll just quit following him. Nothing else. We don't have to discuss instrumental music. We don't have to discuss partaking of the Lord's Supper every Sunday. We don't have to discuss whether I'm a pastor or not a pastor. We don't have to discuss baptism for the remission of sins. I'll just give it all up if Jesus is a false prophet. It's a useless religion. He's heading out the door, and he quits talking to the kings, and he says this, hearken, O people, every one of you. Wow. Listen to what I say. Listen to what I say. Unbelievable. Give heed to my prophecy. Give heed to my failure if my prophecy does not come true. Remember, the kings have assembled a large gathering at a void place in the entrance of the gate of the city of Samaria. All the false prophets were there, and such a gathering would have brought a ton of people from the city of Samaria to hear what's going on. He lets all Israel know, guys, either I'm a true prophet or I'm a false prophet, and you're going to know that in just a few days. Man, was he pretty certain of his prophecy? Yes. I wish I had the conviction of a man like Micaiah. You know that? What a conviction. One before how many? 402. About. Good stuff. Thank you.